Joining us now is Jamil Jaffer, a security expert and former Associate White House Counsel to President George Bush. Good to see you on the programme. This is fascinating, isn't it, really, from start to finish this? It seems the media were well ahead of the authorities here. I mean, staking out his home before he was arrested. So the authorities have got a lot to answer for, haven't they?
Well, it does appear that at least at some level, the FBI was still working the investigation before the Washington Post was able to get the story and the New York Times were able to get the story and publish it out on the internet. And so his name was revealed before he was even arrested. Obviously troubling for the FBI to have that happen to them in the middle of what obviously had to be a significant and high profile investigation for them.
Is this something sinister, do you feel, in the motives here, or just bragging, showing off to his friends?
Well, it's hard to know because what we've heard thus far is what we've seen reported in the newspapers based on conversations that the media has had with folks that were in his chat group on Discord, that social media network that he was part of and trying to lead the group in. Now, what they've indicated is that he was, looking to gain credibility with them and looking to lead the group more aggressively. And that's why he revealed the information. He wanted to demonstrate to them his skill set and capabilities. Now, whether there was something else sinister going on, he knew there were Russians and Ukrainians, foreign nationals in the group, as well as Americans. So it raises the question of why exactly, was it just ego or was it something more than that that was going on with Jack Teixeira?
And he's supposed to have been an IT specialist, isn't he, giving him access to various information, various data that nobody else would have got.
That's right. He was a cyber transport systems journeyman. What that means is he was an enlisted member of the Air National Guard. He was tasked to the Air Force and had his top secret sensitive compartmented information security clearance so that he could work on highly classified networks that transmitted the very kind of data that we're talking about. And in particular, the 102nd Intelligence Wing that he was part of was an intelligence support unit to the Pentagon. So they provided the kind of intelligence and carried in their systems the kind of intelligence that he's now accused of having leaked publicly. So that's why he had that level of clearance. That's why he had access to that data. It was what his unit did, and it was the systems that he worked on that transported that very information.
I mean, whatever way you look at it, this leak is a huge breach, isn't it? Perhaps the biggest since WikiLeaks?
Yeah, Nick, this is a hugely problematic leak because for a couple of reasons. One, it demonstrates a lot of information that we knew tactically on the battlefield or that we made assessments of, Ukrainians' capabilities, how quickly they were using various pieces of ammunition and the like. But on top of that, also our relationship with our allies, who we're spying on, who we're listening to, what they're saying to one another. That's embarrassing, not just for us. Everyone knows that we spy on one another, right? But the fact that we're able to reveal those conversations is deeply concerning. And it's going to hurt the U.S. intelligence community in a significant way. So I think you're exactly right that this is a very problematic leak. And as a result, Jack Teixeira is probably going to face a significant amount of jail time, even if this was just about his ego.
What has this done to relations then between the United States and its allies?
Well, it certainly makes them more difficult in the following sense, right? All of our allies know, with a few exceptions, that we spy on them, that they spy on us. In fact, some of the countries that were discussed in these papers, Israel, South Korea, both very aggressive collectors against the United States as well. That being said, the fact that what was in those conversations and in those internal discussions was revealed not just to their public, but to the world public is obviously concerning for them and makes them concerned about what the U.S. government does to protect its secrets. And that's really, I think, Nick, the challenge here.
Is there going to have to be some damage limitation? We know that President Biden has ordered a security clampdown, but perhaps a bit too late.
Well, one of the things here that's difficult, Nick, is that, historically we have this need to know requirement that you only get information that you have to have access to. But of course, in the aftermath of 9/11, when we realized that those need to know requirements often led to a lack of information sharing, we moved to both a need to know and a need to share environment where we shared more information, not just with people within the intelligence community, but with the Department of Defense and across the Atlantic and the Pacific with our allies. And so now there's a question, should we tighten that back up? And if we do, will that limit our ability to defend the nation and our allies against potential threats from adversaries?
I mean, it does seem this happens in the US rather than many other countries. For instance, it might happen here, but very rare in the UK.
Well, the UK has very aggressive laws that they can be utilized to prevent the leaking of information that can be used to crack down on newspapers and the media. The U.S. has a different philosophy on this, the First Amendment and those rights. Now, of course, anybody with classified information who leaks information like Mr. Teixeira is accused of having done, they're going to get the book thrown at them. But one of the challenges is we've seen Edward Snowden get away with it, flee to Russia. We've seen Chelsea Manning get convicted, sentenced to 35 years, then ever since commuted by President Obama to 7 years. So there is, at some level, a sense amongst people who want to disclose that maybe they won't be pushed as hard. And so now, unfortunately for Jack Teixeira, he's going to have the book thrown at him. They're going to need to make an example out of him because of these prior failures to really bring to justice the people who had done the wrong thing and were ultimately let out earlier than they should have been.
Yeah, and here we go then, a 21-year-old who is facing the prospect of many years behind bars.
Exactly right. And that's really the challenge for him, I think. It's really unfortunate. He's a young man. He has the whole rest of his life ahead of him. And unfortunately, a good portion of that is likely, if the facts are proven true, likely going to be spent in a federal prison.
There he is, Jack Teixeira. All right, Jamil, Jaffer, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Nick.